All right, you need to make sure that you have picked up this drawing board diagram, and you need to fold it in half and tape it down onto the left side of your notebook. So you might want to pause the podcast at this time so that you can do that. All right, the notes for this podcast are over drawing board diagrams. If you recall, we talked about Niels Bohr when we talked about the atomic model timeline. Niels Bohr was the guy who found that electrons orbit the nucleus in shells. So we're actually going to be doing those diagrams. All right, the first step to drawing these board diagrams is to find your element on the periodic table. After you find your element, you need to determine the number of electrons. And if you don't know the number of electrons, what you need to do is go to the periodic table. So if I pull you over here, go to your periodic table, and it's going to be the atomic number. On your periodic table, I do believe it's on top of the number. So you need to find the number of electrons. This is how many electrons that you will draw. Step 4, you need to find out which period your element is in. If you recall from yesterday or the day before, a period is the row that it is found in. This row, or this period, will tell you how many levels or shells you will need to draw. You need to draw your electrons in a counterclockwise direction, starting at the right. All right, so let's begin. You need to go to your periodic table and find carbon. Carbon's atomic symbol is C. You should find that carbon has an atomic number of 6. You should also see, as we go to the period, that it is found in period 2. So period 2 means that there are 2 shells around carbon. Now over here on the left-hand side of the Smart Notebook, you see that the number of electrons that each shell can hold. So in the first shell it can hold 2, in the second shell 8, third shell 8, fourth shell 18, 18 in the fifth, 32 in the sixth and seventh. Now you cannot put more than that in each shell. So we know that carbon has 2 electrons in the first shell and 4 electrons in the last shell. So a total, if you look at my dots, I have a total of 6, and that's how many total electrons I have. Now to check to see if you're correct, you want to find the group number that carbon is in. Carbon should be found in group 4A. We have 4 electrons in the outer shell. All right, let's try another example. If we go to this example of hydrogen, we find hydrogen on the periodic table. Hydrogen is found in group 1. It's also in period 1. The atomic number of electrons for hydrogen is 1, and it is a nonmetal. So let's go ahead and start. Since it's in period 1, I have 1 shell. The group number is 1. That means it has 1 valence electrons, 1 in its outer shell. Hydrogen only has 1 electron, so we only put 1 electron on this first shell. All right, next example I want you to try on your own. I am going to continue the podcast and do 2 more examples, but pause it at this time and try helium on your own. Okay, so helium, we look and go to the periodic table. Helium is found in group 8. It's in period 1. The atomic number is 2, and helium is a nonmetal. So since the period is 1, that means I have 1 shell around helium, and it's in group 8. Even though it's in group 8, it does not have 8 valence electrons because it only has 2 total. So we actually only have 2 dots on helium. All right, the next example, you can go ahead and try this on your own as well, but pause the podcast. I am going to continue. The element is oxygen. Oxygen is found in group 6A. It's found in period 2. And the atomic number, the number of electrons on oxygen, is 8, and it is a nonmetal. Okay, since it's in period 2, I have 2 shells. It is in group 6, which means I'm going to have 6 valence electrons, so I have 6 in this outside shell. If you noticed, I started pairing them up, so you go around once. So I got through 4, 5, 6 to have 2 pairs. Now that's only 6, and the atomic number is 8, which means I need to make sure that I have 2 on my first orbital. So that would be a total of 8 electrons, 1, 2 on the first shell, and 6 on the last shell, making 8. All right, I want you guys to do the last 3 of these for homework. So this concludes the podcast on drawing Bohr diagrams.